20,000 images, hours of video footage, an entire hard drive of horrors documenting a decade of drugging and exploitation at the hands of the person she trusted the most. This was the unfathomable reality Gisèle Pelicot woke up to when her world shattered in 2020.
20,000 videos and images of his then wife, Gisèle Pelicot, unconscious, being assaulted by dozens of men.
For years, Gisèle's deteriorating health had confounded doctors and devastated her loved ones. She couldn't have imagined the sickening truth that lay behind it all. Her own husband of 50 years had been inviting swaths of strange men into their home to do their worst with her after he would spike her drinks. But Gisèle did not retreat into the shadows.
Je pense aussi à toutes les autres familles touchées par ce drame. Je pense enfin aux victimes non reconnues, dont les histoires demeurent souvent dans l'ombre. Je veux que vous sachiez.
Instead, she bravely stepped forward to reclaim her story and use her voice as a clarion call for change. She offers hope and strength to us all. This is her incredible story. Imagine your whole world shattering piece by piece as a mysterious illness slowly steals your mind. That's the nightmare Gisèle Pelicot found herself living in 2020. At 68, this once smart and joyful grandmother started slipping away, consumed by a horror show of symptoms that left her family and doctors at a total loss. Severe brain fog, incoherent rambling, memory loss so extreme she couldn't recall entire phone conversations with her kids. Gisèle was disappearing before their eyes. Her 3 adult children, hundreds of miles away in Paris, could only listen in rising panic as their mom deteriorated with each distressing call, forgetting what day it was, asking bizarre, unrelated questions, fading into a haze mid-sentence. It was like she was vanishing in real time. Even Gisèle's little grandkids, who used to light up at the sight of her face on FaceTime, were starting to find Grandma's vacant confusion straight up scary. As Gisèle became a shell of herself, unable to drive or handle basic daily tasks, her husband, Dominique, played it all down. This was the man who had been by her side for 50 years, and he point-blank refused to get her medical help. "You know how your mother is," he'd say, brushing off the kids' concerns with a shrug. "Always doing too much. Slowing down. She just needs to chill and stop stressing over every little thing. She'll be fine." Plot twist. In September 2020, Dominique Pelicot got arrested for secretly filming up women's skirts at the supermarket, like a total creep. Yep. This seemingly normal 68-year-old grandpa was out here violating strangers on the sly. Gisèle and the family were shook. Who even was this guy? But that bombshell was just the tip of the iceberg. What he had been doing to his own wife was far, far worse. Once the cops started combing through Dominique's devices, they uncovered something straight out of a horror movie. A massive stash of 20,000 plus photos and videos of Gisèle being unconscious and violently assaulted by her own husband and a bunch of random men. Somewhere between 50 and 72 men. The sickening truth came out. For a full decade, this monster had secretly been feeding his wife knockout meds so that he and his skeevy pals could violate her while she was passed out cold, recording every second of it for their twisted enjoyment. Now, Dominique Pelicot is accused of drugging his wife so that she was unconscious and then inviting strangers over to his house, men he'd met on chat rooms, over a span of 9 years. Gisèle's entire reality imploded the moment police showed her those images. Frame after sickening frame of her lifeless body, sprawled out on her own bed, violated in her own home, by the man who swore to cherish and protect her. 20,000 videos and images of his then-wife, Gisèle Pelicot, unconscious, being assaulted by dozens of men. Minutes before showing her the unspeakable evidence, the detectives had asked her if she and Dominique had ever been into swinging. She said, "Of course not. I could only be intimate with someone I had a connection to. I love my husband." Imagine how she felt when she saw what they were hinting at. It was a betrayal so cruel, so all-consuming, there aren't even words. Suddenly, the pieces clicked into place. Dominique hadn't been caring for her through some mystery illness. He'd been the one poisoning her the whole time. For years, Gisèle had essentially been reduced to a living corpse, drugged into oblivion and subjected to hours of coordinated torture, all at the hands of her own husband. The psychoactive cocktail he'd been feeding her was slowly destroying her mind and body. No wonder doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. The fact that Dominique was able to carry out such horrific campaigns of abuse for so long reveals a catastrophic failure of every safeguard that should have protected Gisèle. How did medical professionals keep misdiagnosing her textbook symptoms of drug toxicity, sending her right back into the arms of the predator slowly killing her? She explained to us how, for 10 years, she had been trying to understand what was happening to her, by consulting with doctors, by talking with her family, by questioning her environment. Yet no one was able to find an explanation. How was Dominique able to openly plot his crimes on public forums with 50-plus collaborators, with zero consequences, until he got sloppy at the supermarket? The system didn't just fail Gisèle, it practically gift-wrapped her for a monster. Before the unthinkable nightmare that would soon consume her, Gisèle Pelicot was living a life full of love and purpose. For 50 years, her marriage to Dominique was the foundation of everything. Raising 3 incredible kids, becoming the most devoted grandmother, and pouring her heart into her community. Gisèle was that person everyone knew they could count on. Whether you needed a shoulder to cry on or a helping hand, her smile and her laughter were like sunshine, making you feel valued and loved just by being around her. But here's the thing, Gisèle wasn't just kind. She was strong as hell. No matter what life threw at her, she faced it head-on with unshakable grace and courage. Those qualities would be put to the ultimate test when her world imploded with the discovery of her husband's unthinkable betrayal. Gisèle endured a level of trauma and violation that would break most people. But even in her darkest moments, she refused to let it define her. Instead, she made the incredibly brave decision to go public with her story. Gisèle knew that by speaking out, she could become a lifeline for so many other survivors trapped in the shadows of intimate partner violence. She understood the risk of exposure, but she also recognized the transformative power of shattering the silence. By refusing to hide her pain, Gisèle forced society to confront the ugly reality of DV and the catastrophic failures that enable it. Still, the road forward was going to be insanely tough. For starters, Gisèle had to reveal this horrifying truth to her children, Dominique's children. His monstrous acts devastated the entire Pelicot family, and Gisèle herself couldn't bear to watch the whole evidence or even accept what had happened. Her lawyer said that it took her 3 years to make this information public and face the videos one by one. It took her almost 3 years to be able to accept having this very straightforward conversation about what was in the case before she could watch everything. Gisèle decided she wanted the rest of the world to do so too. People needed to know. And victims needed to be blamed less, trusted more, and helped through ordeals like these. She was extremely shocked to see herself becoming an object. She used very strong words. They were using me as a trash bag. Yeah. She was not a human being to Dominique and the monsters he brought into their home. The shame and shock are impossible to put into words. But this is why Gisèle went public with the videos, to ensure that this would not happen again to anyone. It was important for the public to know how this could happen. Now, imagine breaking this news to your children before the rest of the world. Gisèle's oldest son, David, learned about this tragedy almost as soon as Gisèle herself found out. In the 4 years between his father's arrest and his trial, David and his siblings did not speak a word to him. Their daughter, Caroline, wrote a book titled "And I Stopped Calling You Papa," detailing the trauma of discovering her father's true nature while trying to support her mother through recovery. In it, she describes the disturbing photos of herself that police found in Dominique's twisted collection, a sickening violation on top of everything else. Was she also part of this atrocity? And can she ever learn the truth? As she told the media, she knows her father will take his lies to the grave. "I don't have anything to be ashamed of," she declared in a powerful stand against victim blaming. Too many SA victims are too ashamed to come out and say what happened, almost as if it's their fault it happened. This is because, in many parts of the world, society still mocks this topic and even protects the perpetrator, especially in murky situations where the perpetrator is the victim's partner. By allowing her story to be told, Gisèle is working to raise awareness about SA within marriages and families. If it's not consensual, it's SA. A marriage certificate does not make this acceptable. Today, Gisèle's bravery in breaking the silence surrounding SA has already helped other victims come forward, first in France and then all around the world. The Pelicot case lays bare many harsh realities about sexual violence and the failures of the medical and criminal justice systems to detect and prevent it. How could Gisèle go to doctor after doctor for years, describing textbook symptoms of drugging, and never once be asked about SA or undergo testing for date rape drugs? Why was Dominique able to openly advertise his wife's violation online and find dozens of willing accomplices? What allowed this predatory operation to flourish unchecked for so long? These are uncomfortable but critical questions we must grapple with as a society. Marital rape is still not treated as seriously as stranger rape under the law in many places. Doctors often lack training to screen for domestic SA. Online spaces thrive where men can boast about assaulting unconscious women with impunity. At its core, this case is about more than just the depravity of one man, it's about the societal conditions that enabled him. And speaking of the depraved men, they were all so-called upstanding members of society, married, with good salaries, and so on. It's shocking that so many monsters lurk among us. They are well-integrated men, for the most part, they have jobs, families, friends, but they're not ordinary in the choices they made. What these men said in the interrogation rooms revealed that we need a fundamental cultural reckoning with the misogyny and entitlement that allows so many men to rationalize SA. Many of them denied wrongdoing even when confronted with video evidence. For them, SA is easily normalized and excused. They saw nothing wrong with what they had done. Some claimed that they didn't realize Gisèle was unconscious, an absurd defense in light of the elaborate measures Dominique took to conceal their crimes. Others suggested her violation was like a game she had agreed to, despite all signs to the contrary. A few had the audacity to argue that Dominique's consent to share his wife's body overrode her own, as if she were his property. Again and again, they grasped at victim blaming to evade responsibility. These are the same narratives used to discredit victims in countless other cases. She was asking for it. She probably enjoyed it. Her partner said it was okay, so why does it matter what she wanted? With each excuse, the humanity of the victim gets erased, her suffering diminished, and the crime against her trivialized. But these monsters wouldn't have an easy time during their 2024 trial. Gisèle had a large group of women cheering for her each day after the trial, women she never asked for or expected to be there. Well, according to Le Monde, 25 men, including Dominique Pellet, have already given evidence in the last few weeks in a trial that gripped the nation and sent shockwaves around the globe. Dominique Pellet was finally held accountable for the unthinkable crimes he inflicted upon Gisèle. After months of gut-wrenching testimony, the court handed down a staggering 51 convictions, totaling over 400 years in prison time. Dominique himself was sentenced to 20 years behind bars, a fitting end for him, as this was the longest sentence he could receive under French law. Dominique Pellet has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for aggravated rape, of his former wife, as well as making and distributing images of her. Now, this was the maximum sentence that was requested by the prosecution, and under French law, it is the maximum sentence that he could receive. The other defendants got up to 15 years in prison. The verdicts marked a powerful moment of reckoning, not just for the Pellet family, but for society as a whole. As Gisèle gravely sat through hours of horrific evidence, including videos of her own assault, the world watched in collective horror and outrage. How could something so monstrous go undetected for so long? What does it say about our culture that a 72-year-old serial rapist was able to find 50-plus men eager to join in his depraved scheme? Of course, only a small minority of men are perpetrators on the level of Dominique Pellet. But we can't write this off as some bizarre anomaly, not when over 50 men felt comfortable answering his invitations to SA. Not when marital rape is still widely viewed as a private matter rather than a serious offense. Not when survivors routinely go unheard and unhelped while predators walk free. For Gisèle and her loved ones, the convictions are a bittersweet validation after an unimaginable ordeal. While justice has been served, no prison sentence can undo the trauma and betrayal they've endured. But she did speak after his sentencing, and it was a moving moment. Even after this ordeal, it wasn't about her, it was about all others she could help. Gisèle's courageous decision to go public with her story has made her an icon of resilience. But the road to healing is long and painful. Her children, forced to grapple with the fact that their father is a monster, must now rebuild their lives in the shadow of his crimes. Yet, even in the darkest of moments, Gisèle's strength shines through. Her refusal to be silenced, her determination to hold her abusers accountable, is a powerful reminder that survivors' voices matter. By speaking out, she has not only reclaimed her own narrative but become a beacon of hope for the countless other victims suffering in the shadows. Let the example of Gisèle's courage propel us forward. Let the depravity of Dominique's actions be a wake-up call that we can never again ignore. In a world where monsters like him exist, we must all become guardians of one another's dignity and safety. We must build a culture of enthusiastic consent, steeped in respect for bodily autonomy as a fundamental human right. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this tragic case? Leave a thoughtful comment down below. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, catch you soon. Stay safe.